Have you ever noticed how the truly intelligent often seem out of place in society? Not the kind of intelligence that gets high grades, collects degrees, or wins trivia games, but the deeper kind. The intelligence that questions. The intelligence that doesn't just accept what's handed down, but quietly asks, why is it this way? That kind of intelligence unsettles people. It makes them uncomfortable. And as Schopenhauer once wrote, intellect is invisible to the man who has none. Think about that for a moment. If someone can't see beyond the surface, they won't even notice intelligence when it's right in front of them. Or worse, they'll mistake it for arrogance, hostility, or even danger. That's why truly intelligent people often feel out of place in society. They're not feared because of what they do, but because of what they reveal just by existing. Now picture this in today's world. A workplace meeting where everyone is nodding along to a flawed plan. The air is thick with agreement, silence, compliance. But then one person raises their hand, calmly pointing out a hole in the logic, a crack in the foundation. Suddenly, the room shifts. People feel exposed. That one act, that single question, carries more weight than a dozen compliments. The one who dared to see differently now becomes the outsider. Schopenhauer understood this tension well. He believed that the mass of society doesn't want to think deeply. The majority of men are not capable of thinking, but only of believing, he noted. Belief is comfortable. Thinking is dangerous. And the truly intelligent? They live in thought. They strip away illusions, which is why they scare the structures that depend on those illusions for survival. This isn't about academic brilliance or collecting degrees. It's about perception. About the rare few who don't just swim with the current, but notice where the current is leading. And sometimes they refuse to follow it. Imagine society as a play. Most people are happy to play their roles, to stick to the script. But the intelligent? They notice the strings, the stage lights, the director's hand. And once you notice, you can't unsee. That awareness itself becomes a threat. It explains why intelligent individuals are often labeled as difficult, rebellious, or even dangerous. The refusal to conform isn't always an act of defiance. It's just clarity. Schopenhauer put it this way, talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see. And what happens when you hit targets invisible to everyone else? You frighten them, because you reveal that their safe little world isn't the whole picture. Pause for a moment and think about the paradox here. Society celebrates intelligence in theory schools, awards, innovation. But when intelligence doesn't serve the system, when it questions the foundation instead of polishing the surface, suddenly it becomes dangerous. The very quality we pretend to admire becomes the quality we punish. This is why so many intelligent people throughout history were isolated. Thinkers, philosophers, reformers, they weren't embraced. They were resisted, because society doesn't want truth as much as it claims. It wants stability, comfort, and intelligence disrupts that. Consider the modern world again. Someone scrolling through social media, bombarded with easy answers, simple slogans, instant opinions. It feels safe to join in, to nod, to repost. But the intelligent person pauses. They notice the manipulation, the patterns of control. They don't take it at face value. And in that pause, they separate themselves. That separation is subtle, but it's enough to make others suspicious. Why aren't they joining in? Why are they so quiet? Silence itself becomes threatening when everyone else is shouting the same thing. Schopenhauer once remarked, "To live alone is the fate of all great souls." That loneliness isn't always chosen. Sometimes it's the cost of being awake in a world that prefers to sleep. Society fears the truly intelligent not because they're violent, not because they're cruel, but because they break the illusion that everyone depends on. And here's the irony. Society also needs them. It needs the few who question, the ones who notice, the ones who refuse to blindly follow. Without them, progress would stall. Without them, injustice would never be challenged. Yet those same people are cast as outsiders, needed but unwanted, listened to but not welcomed. That's the paradox Schopenhauer saw, the push and pull between society's need for intelligence and its fear of it. Think of Galileo, silenced for pointing out the truth about the universe. Or Socrates, forced to drink poison for questioning the norms of Athens. Their crime wasn't violence. It was seeing too much. And if you think that's just history, look closer at today. Whistleblowers punished. Innovators mocked. Visionaries isolated. The pattern hasn't changed, it's just wearing modern clothes. Schopenhauer believed that most people are guided not by reason, but by imitation. The wise have always said the same things, and fools, who are the majority, have always done just the opposite. That's why the truly intelligent unsettle society, because they refuse to imitate. They won't simply mirror the crowd. They think, and in thinking, they threaten the fragile unity of conformity. The question then becomes, why is society so afraid? Why does it react with suspicion, resistance, even hostility toward intelligence? The answer lies in insecurity. When someone intelligent reveals cracks in the foundation, it forces everyone else to face truths they'd rather avoid. And people don't like being reminded of their own blindness. They lash out, not at the truth itself, but at the one who spoke it. This is why intelligence so often looks like loneliness. The more someone sees, the less they belong. And yet, paradoxically, their insights shape the very society that resists them. Every leap forward in human history, every breakthrough, every revolution in thought, it came from the mind society tried to silence. Schopenhauer once said, "All truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident." And isn't that the cycle we see even now? Intelligent voices laughed at, then fought against, and only later praised often after they're gone. Society fears the truly intelligent because intelligence doesn't bow. It doesn't worship the same idols. It doesn't repeat the same slogans. It sees the flaws in leaders, in systems, in traditions, and that vision is both rare and threatening. Because if too many people saw what the intelligent see, the entire structure could crumble. This is why the intelligent remain both admired and feared. Admired for what they create, feared for what they reveal. And so society builds a strange relationship with them. It will reward their inventions, but resist their insights. It will use their brilliance, but punish their honesty. It will celebrate their works, but isolate their souls. And this pattern isn't just external. It affects the intelligent themselves. They feel the weight of seeing too much. They feel the distance between their thoughts and the crowd. Schopenhauer knew this loneliness well. Almost all our sorrows spring out of our relations with other people, he wrote. For the intelligent, those relations are often strained because their very presence reminds others of truths they'd rather ignore. So society fears the truly intelligent not because they're dangerous in the usual sense, but because they reveal what others cannot bear to see. They disturb the comfortable illusions, the borrowed beliefs, the silent agreements that keep the world turning. And though their vision can guide humanity forward, it also makes them outcasts. The story doesn't end with society fearing the intelligent, because fear has a way of reshaping itself into many different masks. Sometimes it looks like ridicule, sometimes it looks like exclusion, and sometimes it looks like false praise. Society will often disguise its discomfort with intelligence by pretending to honor it, while quietly keeping it at a safe distance. Schopenhauer saw through this mask. He knew that much of what society calls admiration is really a form of control. Respect is the outward expression of fear, he once said. Think about that. When society claims to respect intelligence, is it true respect or is it fear dressed up as politeness? More often than not, it's the latter. The intelligent are celebrated as long as they remain harmless, entertaining, or profitable. But once they step out of line, once their insight points toward uncomfortable truths, the admiration quickly fades. Look at how many thinkers were ignored in their own lifetime. Van Gogh dismissed as mad. Nietzsche laughed at and ridiculed. Even Schopenhauer himself, who struggled for recognition while alive. Only later, when their voices could no longer disrupt the present, did society suddenly embrace them. Why? Because it's safer to admire the dead. A dead genius can't question your system. A dead philosopher can't expose your illusions. This is part of why intelligence is so unsettling. It's not only what it sees, but when it sees. The intelligent often notice problems years, decades, even centuries before everyone else. And when they speak too early, they sound out of place. Society labels them as eccentric, delusional, even insane. Only later does the world catch up, and suddenly, the same people are hailed as visionaries. As Schopenhauer put it, the wise man is always at odds with the world. Think about the way society responds to warnings. When someone intelligent raises concerns about corruption, about environmental decay, about moral decline, the reaction isn't usually gratitude. It's irritation. Stop being negative. Stop overthinking. Stop making trouble. That's the first defense of society against uncomfortable truths. Shut them down. But truth doesn't stay buried forever. It leaks, slowly, then suddenly. And when it becomes undeniable, the very same society that resisted it will rewrite history to make itself look wise. It will claim it always knew, always understood, always respected. This cycle has played out endlessly. The intelligent are silenced in life, celebrated in death. Schopenhauer himself warned of this hypocrisy. All great truths begin as blasphemies. If that sounds extreme, just remember how radical ideas once sounded, that the earth isn't the center of the universe, that slavery is immoral, that women deserve equality. Each of these truths was once resisted, mocked, even violently opposed, and yet today they're treated as obvious. The intelligent are feared because they see tomorrow today, and society doesn't like to be rushed. Let's bring this closer to everyday life. Imagine someone in a group of friends who doesn't just go along with the same shallow conversations. They question things. They reflect. They see patterns in behavior, in culture, in politics. They aren't trying to be difficult, but the others begin to feel uneasy. Why? Because the presence of intelligence creates contrast. And contrast is uncomfortable. It forces others to face their own lack of awareness. This is what Schopenhauer meant when he said, "The difficulty is to try to see what is right in front of our eyes." Most people don't want to see. They want to belong. They want to blend. And the intelligent disrupt that comfort simply by being themselves. Their clarity feels like confrontation, even if it's just observation. And here's where society's fear becomes tragic. Instead of learning from the intelligent, it often drives them into isolation. The ones who could guide are left alone. The ones who could inspire are silenced. And in their absence, society makes the same mistakes again and again. Only later, when the damage is done, do people look back and wish they had listened. Take technology, for example. Innovators often see risks long before the public. They warn about surveillance, about manipulation, about addiction. But society, driven by convenience and entertainment, ignores them. Only when the consequences become obvious, when privacy is lost, when attention spans shrink, do people admit the warnings were right. But by then, it's too late. The intelligent are feared in the moment, remembered only in hindsight. And isn't that the irony? The very people who are feared most in life often become the ones society builds monuments for after death. It's as if society can only handle intelligence when it no longer poses a threat. The living genius is inconvenient. The dead genius is inspiring. Schopenhauer put it bluntly, genuine worth and intellect are above all distinctions of birth, rank, and wealth. That truth terrifies those who rely on birth, rank, and wealth for power. Because intelligence is the one thing that cannot be inherited, bought, or manufactured. It disrupts hierarchies. It doesn't bow to authority. And that's why it's feared not just by ordinary people, but by the powerful. Think about it. What do tyrants fear most? Not armies, not weapons, but ideas. Because ideas can't be killed with bullets. They spread silently, invisibly, from one mind to another. A single idea, carried by one intelligent voice, can dismantle empires. That's why history is full of rulers who silenced philosophers, banned books, censored thought. They weren't afraid of the people. They were afraid of the intelligent among the people. And yet, intelligence is never truly erased. It survives in whispers, in writings, in quiet reflections. It waits for its time. This is why the intelligent so often appear isolated in their era but remembered in the next. They carry seeds of thought too advanced for their age, seeds that only later bear fruit. So why does society fear the truly intelligent? Because intelligence is the great equalizer. It ignores appearances, wealth, titles. It cuts through illusions. It exposes pretenders. And no society built on illusion can tolerate too much of that exposure. It must resist, at least for a while. Schopenhauer's insight was that intelligence isn't just rare, it's threatening by nature. The person who writes for fools is always sure of a large audience. The reverse is also true. The person who writes for the intelligent will always remain small, often unnoticed. That's because society rewards comfort, not clarity. Entertainment, not truth. Applause, not wisdom. Yet here's the paradox once more. The intelligent may be feared, but they are also necessary. Without them, there is no progress, no depth, no challenge to mediocrity. Society fears them in the moment, but it cannot survive without their influence over time. So the cycle continues. The intelligent are feared, resisted, isolated. Their insights are mocked, opposed, buried. Then, slowly, their words resurface. They become remembered, quoted, even idolized, but only when they can no longer disturb the present. And perhaps this is the quiet tragedy of intelligence: to be feared in life, but praised in death. To see too much, but belong too little. To be the spark that lights the fire, yet rarely to sit in its warmth. That's why Schopenhauer's words remain hauntingly true even now. Almost all men are slaves of opinion, and the few who are not, those who think, who question, who refuse to bow, are the ones society fears most. But history has shown again and again that these are the very people who changed the world, not the ones who conformed, not the ones who imitated, but the ones who dared to think. And that is why society fears the truly intelligent.